Hi everyone, this is Ranger Mike at Katmai National Park and Preserve. I'm going to try to test some equipment out at Brooks Falls here. Hopefully we can do a live chat from in the river, maybe tomorrow or this weekend. I'm not quite sure, but that's what we're going to try to test out now. There's been some bears in the area. I'm not positive that I want to go down into the river right now if I just have to move out of the way of a bear. So I might hang out on the platform here for just a little bit, or I might give you a little bit of a tour of just upstream of the falls here. We want to try to test our connectivity at Brooks River at the platform. So I'm not sure if our Wi-Fi signal and our equipment necessarily will be able to talk to one another well enough to do a live chat in the river with this camera that you're seeing me on right now. So that's the plan. You're going to see other people walking around right now. I'm on the public wildlife viewing platform. So let's give it a few moments. We'll take a look at the water, and if any bears come around, then we'll take a look. There was one bear way downstream. I just kind of moved out of my line of sight now, and there was another very big bear that was moving upstream, but that was about 15 minutes ago, and I no longer see it. There are some people fishing downstream, and there have been some other people kind of moving through the area, but I don't see any bears on the ground right now. At this time of the year, there's a lot of excited people here to see one or two bears. Of course, just like you are, you're watching the cams, you're hoping to catch a glimpse of a bear here and there. So are the folks that are visiting right now. Don't know. They could go either way. It's hard. It's really hard to tell where and to predict which way that they're going. A lot of times they'll walk up the bank and come in this direction. Sometimes they'll just head into the woods and disappear. Many of the bears will focus on the lower half of the river at this time of the year because that's where the dead and dying salmon collect.
We didn't see any of that, so hence heading up there. But
sometimes they will fish at the falls though at this time. Sometimes they will fish at Brooks Falls at this time of the year.
At this time of day? Okay.
Yeah, not nearly as much as they will further downstream, but occasionally you might see a bear fishing here. So.
Yeah, you're lucky. You just got here today, right?
Yeah.
You were here yesterday. In the rain.
So I can't see any bears right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the camera and I'm going to go to the fish ladder. I'm going to give you a little bit of a perspective on that. And again, this is going to be one of those spots where we'll maybe test our connectivity. So bear with me as I move the camera. It's going to be a bit shaky as I pack the tripod up here and move it around. Jonathan, at any moment in time, if you seem like you've lost the signal, then please give me a message, and I'll try to move back to a location where we have a better signal. Okay, so on the wildlife viewing platform right now, we're going to head off the back side right over here. This is a place that in July I often do look, because bears will walk right back through here. We can get a really good view of them, but I don't like to get right up next to the railing, for instance, just because it's the bears are really close. So we'll take a walk off of these stairs back here. And we'll try to go to the top of the fish ladder. I know no one's I don't think we've shown that on the cam yet. Hopefully the signal is good enough. So that's where it is, and that's where we'll be heading here. I'll be watching people on the platform too, watching their body language. If they start to get real excited, that means there might be a bear nearby. If you've seen any of the Jurassic Park movies, where people are walking through tall grass and there's dinosaurs all around. I kind of feel like that sometimes when I'm walking down near Brooks Falls. I feel like I'm in one of those scenes. So here's the fish ladder, the base of it anyway. This is where a lot of bears will approach the river. Some bears will fish right at this spot. They might wander through the fish ladder looking for any fish that are maybe trapped in there, can't escape very easily. But surprisingly, we don't see that many bears fishing the ladder. Partly because fish can't go through. They seem to not really pile up in here. Otherwise, and it must be a hard place to fish, because even when it was open, we didn't see a lot of bears fishing at this spot. So I'm not going to be exactly level, but this is the top of the fish ladder. This was opened in 1950. They started constructing it in the 1940s. To make a long story short, the Bureau of Fisheries, which is, I think, kind of now would, I guess, be part of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. At the time, they thought that they wanted to give salmon an easier passage beyond Brooks Falls. So they constructed this fish ladder in the National Monument at the time. They didn't ask permission to do it, though. There was a fisheries station here. The Park Service knew about that, but they didn't really know about the construction of the fish ladder until a park ranger came here, and he didn't have phones, so he had to write a letter basically back to headquarters at Mount McKinley National Park and say, hey, what's the deal with this? They ended up putting it through, keeping it open. It was passable for many, many years, and now it's kind of fallen into a state of disrepair. The park, I believe, has plans to fill this in. They're not going to remove it. They're just gonna fill it in. As you can see, since it is kind of deteriorating, if one of these concrete walls were to collapse, then that would really change the direction of the river. The river probably would start all pouring down and eroding this area where I'm standing very, very quickly. Of course, that would change Brooks Falls quite dramatically. So this is the top of the fish ladder. You can look back towards the wildlife viewing platform. And it doesn't look like the folks on the wildlife viewing platform are necessarily looking at anything in particular, so I don't think there's a bear that they're watching that's come into the area. But again, when you're down on the ground like this, you always have to be vigilant. Always have to look around. In bear country, especially in areas where there's high densities of bears, it pays to be vigilant. And it's hard to do. When I go hiking on a long day hike, it's easy to start daydreaming. And that's why I tend to avoid hiking along areas with high densities of bears, just because I do like to maybe let my thoughts wander. But you want to be well aware of your surroundings. Sometimes you'll notice bears before they happen to notice you. It seems like our signal works maybe pretty well from up here. Let's looks like there might be a bear coming into the area. I see a lot of people looking in one direction. I see a lot of anglers downriver, but I don't see a bear. So maybe there isn't a bear coming. People are perhaps just leaving. But we'll keep our eyes peeled in that direction. Okay, so another final look at the top of the fish ladder. Those boards that you see, that's what's making it impassable to fish right now. Those were placed here by park staff. Maybe before I leave this spot, I should explain why we think it's important to block this off for the passage of fish, because for a few thousand years, salmon have been jumping Brooks Falls. They've been doing it successfully. If we make it easier for salmon to pass Brooks Falls, that's going to change the genetics of this stock that goes up into the Brooks Lake, or the Lake Brooks drainage. And each one of these stocks, each one of these streams harbors, a different suite of genes that allows them to successfully survive the migration back to their spawning grounds. So the fish that jump the falls are the ones that are strong enough to do that. The fish that spawn downstream of the falls, they may not necessarily be inferior fish. It's not like they're weaker. It's just that they have chosen that spot to spawn. But we want to ensure as best as we can that these fish go through this area, and it's the natural selective processes that are dictating the survival of the genes, not necessarily artificial fish ladders like this. So let's go down and I'm gonna pack up the tripod here. Let's go down and take a look at the base of the fish ladder, sort of the base of the falls. See how the signal works from there. Oh, actually, no, might be fun. Let's hope that no bears come by. Let's take a look at the top of the falls from across the fish ladder. So I have waders on, hip waders. I'm going to try to cross the ladder. I'm going to get inside of it. Take a quick look at the ladder. I just scared a fish out. There's a few salmon in here. I'm going to have to climb up this wall. I'm going to set the camera on its side while I do that. So I just had to hop around the wall. Not too difficult, but it was difficult to do with holding the camera on the tripod. A lot of times bears will be standing in this area in July. We can't see them all that well from this spot. Let's try to get down a little bit closer. Now, it's hard to move through the river holding the tripod. I'm also holding an iPad just in case we lose our signal, and I will know that. I'm not talking for 10 minutes with no one being able to hear me. So I don't know if, I don't think I'm going to move any closer than this, but I want to give you a perspective on what it looks like upstream of the falls here. All this vegetation has grown back since the fish ladder was opened in 1950. Right over here. Historic photos of the fish ladder area show it to be devoid of course, shrubs and trees. All that stuff was blasted away during the construction of the fish ladder. But this boulder, this is, of course, that's that was not placed here by people. That's a glacial erratic. On one of the more recent chats that I did from Dumpling Mountain, we talked about glacial features on the landscape. We talked about glacial erratics, these rocks that are plucked from, let's say, a mountainside or a rock formation far away, transported by a glacier, and then dropped as the glacier receded. And that's one of them. That rock is, from what I can see here, definitely looks to be igneous in origin. So not necessarily, it's those volcanic type rocks from the Aleutian Range. It was plucked from those volcanoes and transported here and dropped by a glacier. So it does not match the bedrock of Brooks Falls, which is sedimentary. Okay, so still don't see any bears moving through. Keeping a constant watch. I'm going to try to turn around. The river current, we've talked about this before. River current is quite strong for people walking through it. And with sensitive, electronics that I'm holding, I have to be pretty cautious that I don't drop this in the river. I don't want everything to fizzle. So I'm going to be a little conservative in my movements here and there. Okay, so we're back kind of down in the fish ladder area here. It's plunging through. We're going to take a little bit of a walk along the concrete barrier that sort of keeps the fish ladder in place. That's what I'm standing on to give you a little bit of a closer view of the lip of the falls. Let's turn around now. Let's head back. I'm gonna have to cross the fish ladder again. So you're gonna see some shoddy camera work as I do that. Next I see maybe a couple of spawning salmon within the ladder. The salmon are bright red right now. Gorgeous to look at. Spawning activity is really heavy at this time of the year. That's what's going to attract a lot of the bears back. These fish are going to die fairly soon, and the bears are going to have easy pickings. I'm going to carefully cross the fish ladder. This area is very heavily trodden by bear traffic, or by bears. All this grass, it's all beaten down. If they're by the footsteps of bears, if bears weren't here fishing so heavily in July, this area would be, the grass would be much taller, much more lush. The bears do a pretty good job at keeping it down where they frequent. Okay, Jonathan, I've moved a little bit closer back. Signal will get a little bit better. So here's the willow that 402 and her cubs were always hanging near during July. The cubs really did a number on this poor willow. So we're kind of at eye level here at Brooks Falls. I'm going to walk out into the river a little bit further, Jonathan, and see how the signal works from there. We'll head out to the island.
Could you ask the police? Are there bears down at the lake? You know that?
I don't know. No, sorry.
Did you ask the police?
I'm on the internet right now. I'm doing a live program, so I can't. So sorry. I don't think you'll be able to see the salmon, but there are a few salmon swimming away from me. I spent some time one day at the Riffles platform downstream of where I'm standing. watching salmon. I could identify a few of them because they had some, scars or marks on them. Is watching them at their spawning site, digging their nests. I was wondering how long it would take for them to come back after they're displaced from that site, like if a bear walks through. And they usually come back right away. Maybe they take a couple minutes to come back at the most. So let me set this tripod back up again. And we're going to be very crooked here till I get that straightened out. That's a little bit better. Okay, so we're looking at the jacuzzi. This is the spot where 747, 856 love to fish a lot. To give you a little bit of a perspective on those bears, I'll walk out into the river so you can maybe see me. The falls itself is much taller than me, 6 to 8 feet high across it on average. I'm only wearing hip waders. I'm not going to get too far out in there, and I can't really leave the camera unattended in case a bear happens to come by. I need to be close by to I'll be able to pick that up quickly. This island also used to be very vegetated. About 20 years ago. Since that time, the bears, they've been changing the habitat with their sheer numbers coming on the island, marking all these trees. Every year, this felt leaf willow in front of me, it's still hanging on, but it gets beat up every year, and each year it doesn't grow back as vigorously. It's a pretty tough plant. But, when you have your trunk and your branches broken every year, it makes it hard for you to make a living. Frankly, I'm surprised that it's actually still here. And the sun's coming out, that's nice. Haven't seen a really sunny day in a couple days. And I don't think I'm going to be able to get across the river right now. I'd like to take you over to the far pool, over to Otis's office. But maybe I'll save that for the actual live chat from the falls. So we'll get out into the water here just a little bit further. People are often wondering, why, looking at the bears, looking at them standing up, wondering why they do that. When you're down at eye level in the water, it's actually pretty hard to see into the water itself. So when bears stand up on their hind legs, it gives them that extra few feet to look down into the water and see the fish that much easier. Because I don't know if you can see the salmon. There's a bunch of salmon in front of me. If I move any closer, they're probably going to scatter. But they're in the water down there. And this is good spawning habitat for sockeye salmon. Pink salmon will spawn here. I've seen chum salmon spawn in this area, silver salmon. The vast majority, of course, are sockeye salmon. But clean gravel, highly oxygenated water that's cold. This is a great spawning site for them. And this sort of substrate and water conditions continue all the way up the river to the head of the river, about a half mile, 3/4 of a mile from where I'm at. Okay, let's head back down to the island. I think our signal probably would allow us to do a more formal chat from the river soon. Seems to be doing pretty well. This is a no man's land in July. Even if I was allowed to come down here, I would not. Not good for me, not good for the bears. I can see some sockeye salmon here really well. Try to give you a view of those for a couple of minutes. Just let you enjoy them. So right here, this is a male and female pair. Females select the spawning site, they defend that spot from other females. Males compete with one another for access to females. You just saw the female on the left there digging a nest, just fanning her tail against the gravel. They lay about 1,000 eggs in each nest. Collectively, that whole those nests are called her redd, R-E-D-D, so redd with 2 D's. Females have a finite number of eggs, maybe 4,000 or so, 3,000 to 4,000. Sperm is a lot cheaper to produce, so males, we're going to try to fertilize as many eggs as possible. Once one female is done spawning, if a male still has energy, he may go and try to compete with other males for access to another female. These fish are really amazing. I mean, all of the things that they've avoided successfully to just get back to this spot is quite incredible. First, their eggs had to get fertilized, and they had to be buried properly in the right spot. These fish may have been born right here. Then, after they hatched and they emerged from the gravel as fry, they had to avoid a lot of other fish predators: rainbow trout, Arctic char, Dolly Varden. A few years later, they had to avoid a host of predators as they ran out to the sea, becoming smolt. Out in the open ocean, avoiding orcas, beluga whales, people, as they're traveling out there for a few years. And then coming back, avoiding predators that are wanting to feed on them again. At no point in their lives are they really safe from predators, except for maybe that period of time where the eggs are incubating in the gravel. And that's quite a different thing to consider, especially from a human perspective. Because I'm in brown bear country, I'm not necessarily the top of the food chain here, but I don't have to worry about a predator trying to get me every second of the day for my whole entire life. These salmon do have to worry about that, and it's in their instinct to try to avoid it. It's amazing that they can make it back. So sometimes if I get a little bit closer to the salmon and I stand very still, they may come back to their spawning site, and we can get a better look at them. So I might try to creep up a little bit closer. Let's see what happens. If I get a little closer here. You know, if my shadow doesn't really cast down on them, then they may not avoid me. They did move away just a little bit. But if I stand very still, they may come back. Of course, I can't stand that still because I have to look around for bears. Oh, and I just caught a glimpse of a big silver salmon. He's moving away right now. He's at that rock at the top of your view. Silver salmon have kind of greenish backs, kind of pinkish red sides. They're very beautiful, just like all the mature salmon are really beautiful to look at. And you can look at these just rubies swimming in the water here. So I don't know if that's the male or the female. It's hard to tell with the ripples in the water. Coming a little bit closer to me here. Watching the fish can be fun. It can be difficult when you can't really identify them individually because it's interesting to figure out who's doing what. These are such gorgeous creatures, and they are the keystone of Katmai's ecosystem. Without these salmon, you would not be watching bears at Brooks Falls. Maybe ever. So if you're just tuning in, sort of an impromptu live chat here. My name is Mike Fitz. I'm a park ranger at Katmai National Park and Preserve. I am standing in Brooks River, downstream of Brooks Falls. Been testing some things out to see how well our connectivity will do for a potential live chat from the falls in the next couple of days or so. It seems like it'll work pretty well. We'll announce that date and time shortly. So here's Brooks Falls, Island, where a lot of people, or a lot of bears like to stand on, rest on, feed on, pan back to the wildlife viewing platform. That white blob on the right side of your view is the Brooks Falls cam. And look downstream. So I'm going to cross back over the river right now. And take a look at the forest. Because again, the camera can show us a lot of things, but it can't quite show us everything. So I'll give you a view of what's behind the Brooks Falls Wildlife Viewing platform. Let me pick this up. Don't get seasick. So I'm right down below the elevated walkway. You can see it's about 10 feet high. Those stairs that I came off of are right over there though. They're not that high. The bears often walk right by that end gate. And that's why I tend to not maybe stand right next to the gate. So over here, below the wildlife viewing platform, of course we have our cam, our main Brooks Falls cam. This is the microphone. Actually, no, excuse me. That's another camera that we have. And then we don't have the bandwidth necessarily to support all of these streaming live on the internet, unfortunately, but this is another camera too. And then this is the microphone down below that box. We have it aimed out towards the river where I'm standing, but if people are standing on the ground, definitely you would be able to hear their conversations. So not only do we have to turn it off at this time of the year for maybe power reasons, but we also have to turn it off for privacy reasons too. You know, people can be on the internet practically anywhere. Everyone can pull out their iPhone and stream video using Periscope or something like that up to the World Wide Web. But we do want to give people some privacy here at Brooks River. We don't want people to have their conversations broadcast all over the world. So this microphone is currently not turned on, and we may be able to turn it on later in the year once the facilities here close. But we do not have it turned on right now, and will not do that probably until October. It's a busy day for people fishing in the river. Quite a few anglers downstream. This area is closed to fishing. It's closed to people from June 15th to August 15th. It's closed to fishing in this spot year round. Within 100 yards of the falls, upstream or downstream, you cannot fish. But from June 15th to August 15th, it's closed to people. And that's for the protection of the bears. So before I end this impromptu live chat, let me take you down into the forest over here. Give you a little bit of a look at some of these bear trails down in here. So it's hard to tell, maybe in your view, but this is an area of just a lot of beaten down grass. A lot of grass still standing, but a lot of grass that's been trampled down to the ground, all by brown bears. I wasn't necessarily familiar with the dynamics of this location when people happen to fish, or excuse me, when bears happen to fish here. I'd be pretty nervous, for sure, about being in this spot because there's bear sign everywhere. Right, and we're gonna do one more thing before I stop the broadcast. And let's head up on this terrace right behind the wildlife viewing platform. So last week, I believe, or the week before, Linda Chisholm and I, Linda, who's one of the park archaeologists, we talked about how people have used the Brooks River for thousands of years. This is a spot right here that's actually covered in archaeological sites. You couldn't actually sink a shovel into the earth here, probably without finding very significant artifacts. This was a place that was heavily used by people for a long, long time. Houses that people had. They, there's remnants of those here. Food caches. This is one of the spots that has been occupied so heavily over the past several thousand years that the assemblage of artifacts is churned up and mixed together because people had been living in one spot. They abandoned the area. They came back later. Somebody decided to build their home right on top of that spot. You can see, from what you've seen in July here, just how accessible the salmon are to bears. They would have been just as accessible to people in the past. So that's why this spot would have been occupied so heavily. Certainly salmon were paramount, not only to the survival of bears here, but to people for a long, long time. So this is the end of the wildlife viewing platform right here. Sometimes anglers will use this trail to come back and forth off of the river to avoid the falls. But hopefully we'll give everyone a live chat, more formal live chat from the falls soon. I'm not sure if it'll be, tomorrow, maybe this weekend, but we'll try to advertise that as soon as I can narrow down a time and a place. So I hope you sort of enjoyed this little impromptu live chat and a little tour around the Brooks River area. And I'll be talking to everybody soon.